America is the greatest country in the world. Welcome to our special Politics by Faith, the end of wokeness. And there's a question mark technically at the end of it, but I don't know. I'm hoping it's the end. I hope it's just the exclamation point. This is inspired by Sydney Sweeney and her American Eagle ad campaign. She's that Nazi member who only wants white people to exist or something. I don't exactly know what the ad said. It was like white power, blue jeans. I don't know. Based on the outrage, that's what you'd think the ad would actually say. But listen, if the left wants to embrace white blonde girl with blue eyes as Nazi, like if that's all right, if you want to go down that road, I guess that's all right. So American Eagle, they came out with this jeans ad. They chose Sydney Sweeney to do it, and they did a little dad joke pun on jeans with a J and jeans with a G. Get it? This is the most Nazi-like of all the ads they released right here.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
So a lot of ugly people online, very upset about that ad. We could play their videos. I'm not going to waste your time. You know, people on TikTok, trans people. There was a black woman crying about it. A lot of white women doing this bird thing. This bird snappy little yelling at you thing. Lots of articles about the backlash against the American Eagle, even though their stocks went up and have stayed high. But let's lean into this. I think it's actually a big deal for a company to take a stance like that. What is the stance? The stance is just a rebuke of the left and the left's takeover of marketing over all these last few years. Look at the Jaguar ad. Remember this Jaguar advertisement? This is what they went with. Now, that ended with the firing of their CEO. What in the world? That ended with the firing of their CEO because no one wanted to buy a Jaguar anymore. Of course. I remember the Bud Light. There's some millennial woman who became the head of the advertising campaign at Bud Light, almost totally took out this entire company because they put the guy in the bikini in the bathtub to sell beer to guys. What in the world? So for a company like American Eagle, and I just love how the algorithm or the matrix that we're living in chose to do this with a company that's name is American Eagle, because you have a more patriotic sounding name for that. But for a company to go the opposite direction and just be normal, even that is a big win. And as Trump said in a recent Truth post, he said, being woke is for losers. It's now cool to be a Republican. But he's been saying this for a while about wokeness. I think we have a clip here.
You know what woke means? It means you're a loser. Everything woke turns to shit, okay?
It's true. It's true. So now we have Beyonce. Just last thing on the blue jeans. We have Beyonce, who's now doing an ad campaign for Levi's jeans. So now what we have here is a proxy race war with jeans. So white, it's got A went with the white girl, Levi's going with the black woman. Pick a side is what they want you to do, I guess. I will steal Megyn Kelly's point, though, that the whole point of the Sydney Sweeney ad was that this person, Sydney Sweeney, is authentic. She's real. It's in her genes. She just is like this. But that Beyonce, can you throw that Beyonce up real quick again? The Beyonce, that picture you saw right there, it's all fake. It's all fake, all enhanced. Everything, including the breasts, all bought and paid for. But whatever. You'll be racist if you say anything. Beyonce can wear a blonde wig and it's empowering. Sydney Sweeney is blonde and it's racist. I don't know. I guess I say to Beyonce, my culture is not your costume. All right, but back to Sydney Sweeney. So my initial buzzkill take here is that conservatives, Christian conservatives, should not really be cheering this ad on for its own sake. Yes, it's a rebuke, and I know this is a buzzkill take, but let's just go with it. Yes, this ad is a rebuke of maybe the last 5 years or so of just downright propaganda, but the ad itself is not good. And I can explain this all day long, but let me just quote the Babylon Bee, who does a better job than I could in one paragraph, one sentence. Wokeness defeated. America returns to Christian roots of objectifying women to sell crap. So like that point aside, I do hope that this ad campaign is a sign of us moving away from wokeness. That's great. That's they gotta do that. And moving us towards actual beauty. Not soft core-ish porn like that is, but like where like the girls like talk stupid. Like no, like let's get to something that's actually beautiful, like inherently down in its core beautiful. And that's what I want to talk about here. Part of the golden age that we want to be living in America, that Trump is ushering in this country, part of the golden age is bringing back beauty, rejecting wokeness. Wokeness is ugliness. Reject that and embrace and celebrate beauty, because that's the intent of the left, and it always has been, is to take what's beautiful, to take what you built that is beautiful and destroy it and make it ugly on purpose. They do that all the time. They bombard you with ugliness. And my argument is one of the signs of a truly golden age is a reappreciation for beauty. Camille Paglia, who's an old school feminist, she said we should not have to apologize for reveling in beauty. Beauty is an eternal human value. It was not a trick invented by nasty men in a room someplace on Madison Avenue. We have lived through an era in every single aspect of our culture. And fashion is just part of art, and art is one of the columns of what makes a culture. And politics is downstream of culture. So this is all extremely important stuff. Part of this ugly fashion and ugly advertising, it was all pushed on you because it was ugly, because it was weird or shocking or obese or like that Jaguar ad. It's like bizarre. Like, what is that? Like, it was pushed on you because it was ugly. And if that's who they want to be, that's great. We need to be about beauty and excellence. Now, just another side point here. The left, part of their wokeness, of course, is everything's about race. All right, that's the whole like, oh, you're saying Sydney Sweeney has great genes because she's white? It's not about race. Beauty and excellence is not about race, it's about skin color. I'll give you another example in the fashion realm, and our next guest from Evie Magazine will do a better job with this. I'll save most of this analysis for her. But Ralph Lauren, classic American, Americana brand and aesthetic in every way. They hired the first black creative designer in 57 years. He designed this collection called the Morehouse collection, the Spellman collection, and now what you're seeing on the screen here is the Oak Bluff collection. Oak Bluff, the first two I listed, Morehouse and Spellman, those are historically black colleges and universities. Oak Bluff was a part of Martha's Vineyard, that I guess for a long time, going back a long time, was a place where black people would go and spend their summers. Right? And they loved it, and they owned part of the places, and it was great. So they came out, you guys put it up again. You guys, I want to see this. Like, this is beautiful Ralph Lauren American fashion, designed and modeled by black Americans, and it is excellent and classy and classic and America. It's perfect. It's not ugly. It's not rappers and strippers. It's not Cardi B. I know it's maybe like kind of an old reference. I don't know who the new Cardi B is, but there's another one, I'm sure. Instead, this Oak Bluff collection from Ralph Lauren, it's just beautiful excellence. That's what we need more of. Rejecting wokeness also has to be about embracing beauty. Look at the difference, okay? Look at the difference. Keep that up for 1 second. You may not care about fashion, but it's all forms of art. It permeates everything. We need to reject wokeness. We need to reject what's on the left of your screen right now. Apologies if you're listening on the podcast, but you can imagine you've seen like a music video, like a rap music video, right? We need to reject what's on the left side of your screen and embrace what's on the right side, which is beauty and excellence. We demand a classy culture of excellence in all forms. I mean, in manufacturing, a culture of excellence. In customer service, a culture of excellence. In keeping our cities' sidewalks clean, excellence. We want beauty all around us. We want to be inspired by things that are aspirational. We can present to our kids whatever filth that is on the left of your screen, or we can present to our kids whatever goodness and excellence is on the right side of your screen. And art has become subversive. It's an attack on your senses. Intentionally, they mean that, to do that. They mean to make you cringe. They want to desensitize you to ugliness. These are bad people. Instead, we need to destroy them and what they create, and we need to lift up the people who promote fit, strong, healthy, stylish, cultured excellence. Trump understands this. I saw a clip a while back and I couldn't find it, but it was of Trump talking about the importance of wearing a suit and tie. Even at McDonald's, he had his red tie on. The only time you ever see Trump in a golf shirt is on a golf course. And he always made fun of Biden for sleeping on the beach. He said it didn't look very presidential. Trump has aesthetic taste and standards. Whenever you hear Trump talk about windmills, there's this one, it's like a 4-minute, he was in Scotland, it's like a 4-minute clip of him talking about all the problems with windmills, but it always weaves in and out of, they're ugly. There's a lot of other arguments that he makes, but it always comes back to, they're really ugly, and they ruin our landscape. Trump for a long time has talked about the need for a White House ballroom, and he finally unveiled some pictures of this ballroom and what it's going to look like in the White House, and it's absolutely stunning in every way. Beautiful, perfectly executed and perfectly done. And Trump in his first term, Melania, one of her projects was the tennis pavilion, redo the tennis pavilion. And again, perfect. There's the tennis. Look at that, perfect. So here's my point, my opening argument here. We have two wonderful guests. Reject wokeness. Got it. How do we do that? By rejecting ugliness in all of its forms. And the best way to reject ugliness is to embrace beauty. Marxism is all about ugliness. Marxism is ugliness created by an ugly man on the inside and the outside, full of hate and resentment and greed, who designed, of course, a philosophy and economic system designed to rob and destroy successful people, all based off of resentment and cruelty. Therefore, embrace beauty wherever you see it, all the time. Raise your kids to see beauty, to be aware of it. Isn't that flower beautiful? Look at that butterfly, it's so beautiful. Look what God made. This waterfall is beautiful. Look at this welding job. Oh, this welding job. It's so beautiful. This guy, whoever did this did a great job welding this together. Man, he did a good job. Look how beautiful this dinner looks. Oh, it looks delicious. Driving around, what a beautiful home. Oh my God, the architecture, the landscape, everything's beautiful. Look at this blueberry muffin. This is a perfect blueberry muffin. Look for beauty everywhere you see it and point it out to your kids. And the more you do, the more you will detest the people who have actively tried to offend your senses with the desecration of your soul towards what is good and making a profane what is sacred. Instead, we need to focus on what is good, beautiful, and true. That is how we finally kill wokeness. Coming up next, we'll talk to someone who can analyze this from a cultural perspective, and then we'll talk to a college professor who's doing this from the legal side, because you got to attack it from every angle. We'll do that next right here on The First TV. Welcome back to our special, The End of Wokeness. There's a question mark at the end of that, but we're going to do the best we can to make it only the exclamation point. Carmen Schober is doing her part to get to that final goal. She's one of the editors at the wonderful Evie Magazine. Carmen, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
I'm glad you're here. I want to make sure that everyone is aware of Evie Magazine and what you guys are and what space you're trying to fill. What is Evie?
So Evie Magazine was born out of this realization that if you are like a woman who enjoys reading, about fashion and beauty and pop culture, as many women do, you, for as long as I could remember, you would go to a women's magazine and you could find some high quality coverage on some of those topics. But mixed into all of it was a lot of just like cultural junk, right? Like pushing these terrible values when it comes to relationships. You could see this in like the publications like Cosmopolitan and even some of the more that were born in the mid 2000s, like Refinery 29 and Jezebel, just these really like ideologically slanted publications geared towards women that covered some of the topics that women were interested in, but mixed in with just bad values. And so Evie, our founder, realized like there are millions and millions of women who want to enjoy content about beauty, love, romance, relationships, fashion, fun quizzes, cute boys, all the things that women go to entertainment magazines for without, they don't want to interact with that. They want to find things that actually inspire, that are aspirational, that are edifying, that give good advice that will make your life better. And so Evie was born to meet that specific need.
It's so good, so noble, so awesome. I love it. And we've done a history lesson on Cosmopolitan magazine before, and just like what it came out of, and it's like, oh man, like what, just it's trash, and just all the stuff you just described, like just a bunch of slop, and just really really inappropriate. Like our articles like 10 best ways to cheat on your husband or what. It's like, oh man, like what are we doing here?
Right. Not even just like a little bit edgy, like terrible advice that's going to ruin multiple lives in the process if you fully embrace this identity. And that was like most of the magazines, women's magazines, were jumping on that trend. And, in 2016, we saw a lot of them praising Hillary Clinton as this like feminist icon, which is kind of like a openly, hostile move to their conservative audiences. So our founder, Brittany, was like, why can't we have a conservative Cosmo? Like, why can't that exist? And now it does. So
yeah, it's great. Everyone go check it out. Evie Magazine, find it online. There's print version too now, so it's great. So I want you guys to be, I just cannot wish enough success for you guys. And your articles are so good and so insightful and so important. So that all being said, to you, what is wokeness? We're talking about the end of wokeness. So what is wokeness that we want to see an end of?
Obviously, wokeness encompasses a lot of things at this point culturally. I think the simplest, most helpful definition is wokeness is a very intentional form of subversion. It's taking what is good, what is helpful, what is useful, what lets people function well, and always seeking to subvert it, to question it, to create divisions, to create hostility. That, at least when I write about wokeness, when I'm talking about wokeness, that is what I'm specifically pinpointing as the main issue with so many of these takes that progressives have that we would put under the umbrella of wokeness. It's just taking things that have this value, whether that's beauty, whether that's order, whether that's authority, just certain, we can look at any sphere of life and identify these really helpful hierarchies or objectives or standards. And wokeness is always seeking to subvert those and figure out how we can change them or flip them upside down or just destroy them. And so that's why it's so damaging.
Yeah, it's so good. So what inspired this, and we could have used a million different jumping off points, but was the Sydney Sweeney ad. And Embrace is like an anti-woke thing. So first of all, do you find that true? Or like, what was anti-woke about that?
Well, what's just so, honestly, I don't know that people would have had such a extremely strong reaction to the Sydney Sweeney ad if progressives had not taken it and insisted that it was this dangerous, toxic, evil thing. I think most of us would have watched that and said, oh, a beautiful girl selling jeans. I don't know that we would have necessarily had philosophical reactions to it. But then you see these zealots, for lack of a better word, on TikTok going crazy, insisting that this ad is about white supremacy. This ad is about, marginalizing other people. And it's a power grab by conservatives. It just spins off into this narrative that is, for most people, they can identify that as absurd. It's like I said, this is a beautiful girl selling jeans. It's obviously working. People like beauty. People like products that make them look good. It's pretty straightforward advertising. But in this climate where we do have so many people who buy into wokeness, we have to react to their reactions, which the really insidious thing about it, right, is insisting that this girl, because she's white, because she has blonde hair and she has blue eyes and she looks beautiful and people like it, it is inherently bad, right? The only reason you ever come to that conclusion is because of wokeness. It's because we've subverted very normal things, beautiful women selling products, to turn that into something dangerous. So
we've had decades, or a decade, let's say, of companies making a concerted effort to be ugly. Do you agree with that, or how do you say that without being mean?
Yeah, I mean,
but it's like, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we can see that. We can see the evolution of advertising from going from aspirational to this very, like, I guess the nicer way to put it is like relatable. I would say oftentimes it is aesthetically ugly. It's going for, or even more so, like if it's not just trying to be average, it's trying to subvert your expectations and using models who are very odd, right? Like not aspirational, not what the average person would want to look like. Particularly, we've seen a lot in the realm of pushing obesity as normal or even good. And that, like you said, concerted effort, we've seen that forever. And so the Sydney Sweeney imagery combined with the fact that American Eagle thus far and Sydney Sweeney thus far have been completely unapologetic. They're not sorry for making something beautiful and aspirational. They know that it worked. They are, I mean, that attitude is very refreshing and more people should have it. There's nothing wrong with beauty. We don't need to be always apologizing for it or compensating for it or trying to say that everything is equally beautiful all the time. Like, it's not true. It's not helpful. So I think for a lot of people, even if they couldn't articulate it, this controversy is just kind of a little slap of reality of like, we know what beautiful looks like. We like it. We'll buy things if you inspire us to do it.
So you guys at Evie, you are building a thing to fight back against all of it, right? Like you're building, and that's awesome. The rest of us, what do we do if we find wokeness to be a bad thing, as you defined it? What do we do to defeat it? Actually, what do we replace it with instead?
Yeah, well, my most first thing, you can subscribe to Evie, right? You can be an Evie reader. You can help support us while we're doing our part. But I think really what we've seen be so effective in changing the trajectory of American culture just in the last few years, because I think the peak of wokeness is over. I mean, it's not gone, like you said at the beginning. Is wokeness over? We would love that to be like an exclamation point. I don't think we're there, but I think it certainly has lost a lot of momentum when it had all of the momentum. And I think why is because if people are willing to simply be truthful and be brave and don't apologize for noticing, like you don't apologize for beauty, don't apologize for truth, don't apologize for liking what you like. We make a lot of, or I shouldn't say we do, we have made a lot of concessions to progressive people. We have accommodated them and done our very best to be, as nuanced and whatever as we could possibly be to make them feel good. I think the time for that is now. We're done. Not encouraging anyone to be unnecessarily rude, but I think you no longer need to play this game of acting like you can't see reality for what it is. Live in reality, I guess, is probably my most simple advice. Live in reality and don't apologize for it.
Oh, I love it. That's so good. Evie Magazine. Is it eviemagazine.com or is it evie.com? Is it just Evie?
I think it's eviemagazine.com.
Okay, eviemagazine.com. Read everything by everyone there. It's all great. Give it to your daughters. Make sure your daughters know about it as well, and your wives. Really good, wholesome, quality, beautiful stuff. And not only the content, like articles, but the pictures as well. There's real classic beauty, and you guys are doing a wonderful job. So pass my best on to everyone at the Evie team. Carmen Schober, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Please keep it up. Coming up next, we'll take it now from a legal perspective with the great Professor Jacobson at Cornell University. It's next right here on the First TV. Welcome back to Politics by Faith. End of wokeness? Question mark? But I don't want that question mark. I just wanted a declarative statement one day soon. Professor, William Jacobson is here, Cornell University law professor, founder of the website. Please make it part of your daily reading, Legal Insurrection, and also the founder of the Equal Protection Project. Professor, how are you, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Glad you're here. I'm discouraged. Help me with this. I'm discouraged on the legal fight against wokeness. Should I be more encouraged, or how should I be feeling about the status of it?
Well, I think it depends what your expectations are. If anybody expected this battle to be won in 6 months or with 8, executive orders, they were unrealistic. It's something we're in a state now that has been multiple decades in the making. And hopefully it won't take multiple more decades to unwind it. But I think there's been a lot of progress. I think there was progress prior to Trump 2.0. I think that's one of the reasons he was elected, not the only reason, but one of them was a backlash. And I think that a lot of what he's done in the first 6 months has been very impactful, but nobody should have the expectation that, by January 1 next year, this is all over.
Yeah, maybe before we go any further, we should define wokeness. How do you define it?
Well, there's many different ways, but the one that I use, it's the exploitation of left-wing social justice concepts to virtue signal as a means of exerting political control. That's how I would define it. Now, there are pieces to that. They manifest themselves in different ways, whether it's the curriculum in college, whether it's training sessions, whether it's various ideologies, but that is the overwhelming concept to me. I think it's also fair to say that, just like the famous comment by a Supreme Court justice about what is obscenity is, you know it when you see it. Okay? And so we all know it when we see it, but it's basically exploiting their own social justice concepts as a means of exerting political control.
Okay. A lot of different ways you can go there. So the last guest we had on, and kind of my first instinct is to see wokeness in the culture when it comes to like aesthetics or beauty and like our history and like tearing down statues and replacing them with ugly things, stuff like that's kind of like my instinct, just kind of go there and see it. Where do you go first when you see the wokeness? You're like, that's where I see it the clearest, and that's where I can contribute the most to stopping it.
Well, with me, it's mostly higher education related and education more generally, because to me, what has happened in higher education is essentially the mother's milk of so many of our societal problems. The concepts that 20 years ago people would have thought is completely insane are now accepted concepts, various gender identity concepts, things like that. And so to me, the core cultural battle is taking place in education. If you had asked me 5 years ago, I would have said higher education, but it's now in K through 12. There has been a concerted effort, including by teachers' unions, to push this stuff into kindergarten and elementary school. So that's where the cultural fight is. It manifests itself in other ways. A lot of the people who learned those things in college now are in corporations, now are in government. But to me, it's an issue of the education system.
Do you remember the first time you saw it? Whatever it was, 20 years ago or whatever, the first time you were like, whoa, what? Because I'm sure you've been confronted with bad ideas for a long time. But what was the first thing you look back on? You're like, oh, wait, that was actually woke.
Yeah, I think I would go back even further. I think that when I first recognized the racialization of education, and nobody used the term woke back then, was when I was in Harvard Law School in the early 1980s. These buildings of coalitions of color for political purposes, particularly against Israel and against Jews. That's when I first noticed it. I only recognized that in hindsight. I didn't really understand what was going on at the time, but I'd say you'd probably go back to the late 70s, early 80s, and the racialization of education, which then became critical race theory, which then became diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so it was a process over 20 to 30 years. That's when I first noticed it with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah, that checks out with Bork's book, Slouching Towards Gomorrah. If I recall correctly, there's a part in there where he talks about how you just cannot criticize, you could not, back in the day, criticize a Black history professor. And a Black history professor could say the most absurd, like, just chronologically doesn't even make any sense claim, and you could not question it in any way.
I think we see that in current politics. I mean, the quickest way to get called racist is to criticize a Black politician over policy. How many people were called racist for opposing Obamacare, healthcare policy? But because it was Obama, you were called racist. And that's really politically, for me, the first time I experienced it and saw it. Because prior to starting my website in 2008, I wasn't political at all. I obviously could read and hear, but I didn't participate. It was only once I started participating in the 2009, 10, 11 timeframe that I recognized the exploitation of racial issues as a means of exerting power. Not because anything you said about Obamacare was racist, but because that's how they exerted control. And I think it was the third blog post I had in October 2008, if I'm remembering the title correctly. It was the exploitation of racial politics as a means of control, or words to that effect. That was the third thing I wrote at the website in 2008. And I said how poisonous it was and how it would really rip apart the country. And everything I said then was true. So it's really in the context of Obama and his politics that it got forced onto everybody.
Well, and now look at you. And now look at legal insurrection. Look where you all are now. Okay, so we've identified the threat or the problem. We've lived it. We see it. Everyone gets it. It's waning in ways, or at least the obviousness of it, perhaps. The blatantness of it, but it's still hiding there. So what do we do? What do we replace it with, or what do we lift up so that regular people would never even think of going the woke direction? What do we lift up instead?
I think you have to lift up the rights of the individual, the dignity of the individual. Stop classifying people by identity group. Treat an individual student not as a Black student, a white student, a Hispanic student, an Asian student, but as a student who is entitled to be treated fairly without regard to race or ethnicity. That has to become the overriding goal and the overriding ethos of our educational system. It's what the affirmative action case, Students for Fair Admissions, pointed out, that a lot of the problems that we have stem from gross racial negative stereotypes, which lead to things like affirmative action. And so that's really the answer. We have to change the culture. We have to get ourselves back to a culture which, mirrors the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution Equal Protection Clause, which is that each individual is entitled to equal protection of the laws. That's why we named our project the Equal Protection Project, because that's what we're seeking to uphold, is the dignity of the individual and the worth of the individual without regard to group identities. It's going to be tough because, at least on college campuses, group identity is everything. It's what drives everything on college campuses. It drives admissions, it drives hiring, it drives just about everything. And so the steps that the Trump administration is taking to get that out of the education system, to get it out of the grant funding, to get it, out of the hiring process, that's critical. It's going to take a number of years. I don't know if it can be accomplished in the remaining 3.5 years of his term. If there is a successor Republican who continues those policies, I think it's very likely, if this push to get it out of our system, to get wokeness out of the system, continues for 6, 8, 10 years, I think it can be successful. Serious progress can be made in 2 to 3 years, but that battle can't be won in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, about 30 seconds. Your data set is probably mostly Cornell University, which is great. But everything else you've seen, do you see college kids maybe starting to push back against the wokeness that they had to live through, whether it's Black Lives Matter or COVID or all these other things? Are you starting to see some of that in the hearts and minds of young people?
I think that's happening. I think people recognize it. I think students are afraid to speak up about it. But I think the whole concept, and I think virtually every survey shows this, the whole concept of treating people differently based on skin color is abhorrent to most Americans. Most Americans, including non-white Americans, don't want that. but that's what's being forced. But there's a huge price to pay on a college campus from speaking up. There's a huge price to pay on a college campus for even attending an event where that is challenged. So I think there is a backlash building, but I don't think it's enough right now, but I think it's definitely building. But they're not going to give it up. The DEI industrial complex is like survivors from a shipwreck clinging to a lifeboat, hoping for help to arrive. And I think they think that help is going to arrive in the next election. We'll see if it does or it doesn't.
Great point. Professor William Jacobson, Cornell University. Go check out Legal Insurrection every single day and the Equal Protection Project as well. Professor, good to talk to you, sir. Thank you.
Take care.
Do it again. We'll come back. Among other things, I want to talk about young people. Are we seeing some hope out of our youths? We'll talk about that next, right here on The First TV. Welcome back to our special, The End of Wokeness. I want to define wokeness. Our two wonderful guests did. Let me give my crack at it. Wokeness, from the left's perspective, is the awakening of your understanding, your own understanding of how oppressed you are or how much of an oppressor you are. It is meant to either, if you're the oppressor, to make you feel bad, or if you're the oppressed, to make you feel bitter. It's how the devil works. Close to the truth, but not quite. Right? The devil doesn't start off with, blatant lies. He starts off with subtle sorts of deceptions and half-truths to turn you away from God over time. And even the word woke, what a beautiful trick from Satan. The idea of being awake has biblical allusions to it. All right, so first of all, Jesus told his disciples to stay awake while he went and prayed. They couldn't. There's a couple different commands in the Bible to be awake, stay alert, be sober-minded. Romans 13:11 says, besides this, you know the time that the hour has come for you to wake from sleep, right? There's a lot of waking references in the Bible. And just in general, I once was lost, now I'm found. Was blind, now I see. Was asleep, now I'm awake. But awake to what? Not the truth, not to gratitude, not to virtue, not to the Bible. If only the woke movement was a gospel movement, right? That would have been great. But alas, it has not been. Maybe it can be. But wokeness at its core is about destruction and desecration and making sacred things profane. We talked in the opening segment a lot about art. Art used to call us higher, used to make us look up, literally look up. But art lately has been to destroy, to make profane, right? Like here's rap music. This is good music. This is good movies, right? Just broken cultures pushing all this stuff, and it's pushing all of us down in the mud, and it's preventing us from climbing out of it. This is the French artist Duchamp. His most famous work of art was a urinal. Here's an interview of him back in 1968.
What you were also attempting to do, as I understand it, was to devalue the art as an object, simply by saying, if I say it's a work of art, that makes it a work of art.
Yeah, but the word work of art, you see, is not so important for me. I don't care about the word art because it's been so, discredited and so forth.
But you in fact contributed to the discrediting, didn't you? Quite deliberately.
Deliberately, yes. So I really want to get rid of it. Because the way many people today have done away with religion.
What more proof do I need to share? It's about tearing you down. It's about tearing God down. Art, though, and beauty and goodness in every way is about lifting up your soul. There's the now famous quote from Jeremy Wayne Tate. He tweets this from time to time. He says, modern man is in a terrible predicament. He is helplessly enamored with the beauty of what the old world built, yet despises the beliefs that inspired them to build it. You can think like, geez, you talk a lot about art and architecture and all this stuff, like enough of this art talk about it. It's not just art, it's everything. It's everything we build all the time. Everything. It's whatever you're building that came from something. It came from beliefs that inspired you to build. They want to destroy everything. They want to destroy the beautiful things that have been built, and they want to destroy the ideas that built them. I love this quote too. I think this is the best Sydney Sweeney analysis I've heard. It's from Caroline Downey. She said, the left hates Sydney Sweeney because her popularity is symbolic of their failure, the left's failure, to reprogram young men into aesthetic relativism. I love that, aesthetic relativism, right? So one of the progressive ideas is that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. There's no such thing as truth, they say, and there's no such thing as beauty. So they've been trying to push this aesthetic relativism, like, oh, here's this obese woman in yoga pants. Like, she's beautiful too, right? She's beautiful too. And people are like, no, stop, I'm done with this. Objective beauty exists, just like truth exists. Now, at the risk of making this too political to end our special today, Pew came out with a new survey, and they're comparing 2023 to 2015, not that big of a difference, but the radical swing among one particular group of people. Right, so the people who haven't swung, if you're listening to this on the podcast, the group of people who haven't swung that much are men and women over the age of 50. Right, like a little swing maybe to the right. Women over 65, a little swing, 2 points to the left. But like no change really. I mean, men over 65, 6 points. Well, they're 6 points. Men over 65, oh yeah, men over 65 are 6 points to the right. Excuse me, to the left, Democrats. But still, like 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 points, okay. Women 30 to 49, 3 points to the left to Democrats. Okay, all right. But check this out. Women 18 to 29, just in the last 2 years, women 18 to 29, 14 points Republican. That's the swing. That's how much they've gained. The Republican Party has gained young women 18 to 29, 14 points. Men 30 to 49, Republicans have gained 15 points. But check this one out. Men 18 to 29 years old, young men, Republicans, 2 years, have gained 44 points. That is a rebuke of wokeism. And I love this analysis from Robert Sterling. He says the left has no idea the monster they've created with Gen Z. They have no idea because these Gen Z people, they spent their formative years navigating this massive social experiment and bombarded with wokeness. But the experiment was COVID lockdowns and the DEI struggle sessions and pronouns and microaggressions and land acknowledgements and intersectional social justice. And that demographic, Robert Sterling says, just snapped. They're like, we're out. We're no longer afraid of you. You can call me whatever you want. It doesn't matter. And their political stances today is a total reaction to what the culture had forced upon them on their formative years. Toxic masculinity, all of that. Then they're out. They lived this crucible, and they are now going to be the most right-wing generation I've ever seen. And hopefully these young men, will soon march through the institutions. The left and everything they've done these last few years, we're not quite there yet, but hopefully it will backfire on them totally. Right now, it's sort of what the professor was saying, we're on the downswing of it, but it's still there. But if we can do this right, then there could be a proper backfiring to the left, and we can be in such a better place. If we channel that fire for good. Young men in particular, but young women too, have a deep aversion, hatred, detestation of the left, of wokeness. Great. Let's use that for good. If that can be funneled in the right direction towards what is good, beautiful, and true, then what a righteous thing this, what a righteous movement it will be. This can be one of the most important parts of the American Golden Age. Politics by Faith is my podcast. We take the news of the day, we run it through the Bible, tell Bible stories, read some scripture. It's all there. It's all in there. Everything's in the Bible. Everything happening now is in the Bible. Go check out my podcast, Politics by Faith, everywhere you listen to podcasts. Mike Slater, The First TV. Spread the word.